Hello. YouTuber Anthony Wall. How could I know more than the experts in the world? For example, all this time they've had nuclear weapons. All this time since before our founders were born, the suburbs were designed tactically denatured with slavery entrenched distinctly north and south. Other communicated about that than our founders asked to communicate. How they get away with it, quoting statistics and research, and the value of titles, the value of who has what degree, etc., relative to readings of statutes and of precedents that are criminally foreign influenced, as a part with the list of things that correlation has, that uses lists, hyper-additionally from the ways that computers could, let alone, that humanity could, or computers. Each species' body is its own. See how the other species have the same, distinctly, non-distinctly, and hyper simultaneously have the same features. There's an identity of order slash S. And it has an identity of order to itself that is two additional, hyper-additional identities of order from all these that we could be as the for smallest finite detail, as them grouped and as them all together simultaneously. Prayer by ancient pantheism. When they would discuss it, it comes with hyper-pantheism, more probably and more practically, to summarize the ancients, because this is before the sciences became criminally foreign influence. We know this is one example is we have black pupils, whites of eyes, exceptions in exception nature, different color eyes. We have that identity of relativity actual. That is those features, the other, those is those qualities plural of the other features, uh, black pupils, whites of eyes, exceptions, sexes, differences based on in the imposition of criminal foreign influences, criminal insidiousness with positive and negative treatments. Positive treatments too, not just negative. That's another proof. We have not had. I know how to see each leader, each individual body, no matter how powerful a leader could get, if you're over the species body since semi-ancient times, locations, areas, and states, self-value uses of employments of identity, therefore names, and how we are hyper-additionally the ground, so we can see this. But see, those employments of nature demonstrating a breaching method employed the laws of colonization and had them still entrenched. That's what Jim Crow laws are about. It also employed debates on that to leave that out, while it measures and maintains it left out, and worse. But through our own, it shows them. So it's one thing to need a lawyer's advice. Since founding, that people have needed lawyers' advice, they give them advice. Leave out exception nature. Increasingly self-valuing readings of statutes, readings of human intelligence, tactically, criminally foreign influence. Shown they have to hide it by pretending they care about recruitment, interbranch exceptions like the military, preemptively. They're getting involved in 2006, for example, in a 2006 district court case. Former director of the FBI, former standing chairperson on the Racketeering Influence the Corrupt Organization Act. Three of his co-defendants, Thaddeus Grabowski. Right before that case, too, Thaddeus Grabowski's revolved already on off Fox Connecticut News. Increasingly reported, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed people involved with religious corruption, interbranch corruption, and a whole bunch of other countries in little identity theft, fraud, slanders with databases, tying kids to fake ties to each other, fake natures of ties to each other. Where and how, since founding, pounding drums, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, other natures of them, like how relative to phenomena associated with where the suits and ties nations counters to them, and all exceptions in exception nature, effectively was and is used to measure and maintain. When they bring up Ukraine, when they bring up Russia or America, our own countries, they left out the roles they have with psychiatry, tactically delusions wrought, criminally foreign influence, fact, human nature, quality aspects, natures, roles with overt / insidious uses of their databases and cover-ups and fake motives to screen criminal foreign influence use of the locations. Not about money. They wouldn't be demonstrating it. They have wire mail crimes with the Leahy family that pretended conversations with me with various natures of federal criminals. Some of them as former director of FBI's Robert, and these are doctors with Hartford Hospital, 3 times involved with wire crime methods. And partially, and I still have to apologize to my neighbors. But the Dillon family, like, for example, retired and standing interbranch have had roles with the former standing chairperson on Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organization Act and with co-defendants of his in the 2006 district court case, who have been obstructing justice, extorting. They've been used remotely since from before the World Trade Center attack, in that context and since. Locations that are filmed 24/7, like campuses, they have been fabricating audio and video transcripts, including police campuses. The police department have been attaching kids to fake conversations with others, fake and themselves, fake ties to kids as themselves. With the kids that are increasingly roles from the youngest ages involved with the worst uses that seem less of the overt criminal enterprises, at the same time with the private ones and with interbranch, all sides in criminal and civil cases. Victims and victims advocates have roles with various natures of federal evidence as crimes, federal rules of evidence as crimes, and uses of that also singularly used. Also, not just for what we know and discovered and have discovered, but also all that right back to all locations where it is manifest, for example, where the breaching method employed slavery. The law is sickly distinctly as slavery against everyone. You have to partake of that or you get hurt and killed, worse, everyone around everyone. The syntax possession of everyone had nothing to do with slavery the way it defined it. But we're still talking about the way it defined it, leaving out its method. We're still pretending that people pretending passions and emotions behind jobs don't realize it. And they, if you really look at it on and off the differences of each of the campuses, these are supposed to be the identities of law. These are supposed to be the identities of education. The beginning of the Old Testament, the beginning of the Quran, per science, per what they say, the only thing that matters is right here at the beginning of both books. I have something just like that. The beginning of the Old Testament says right here where the names of the sciences will come together. They come together. The sciences, they share an identity. It is easier to discern different ways. But then there's exceptions with that too. But because it uses exception nature, 2 hyper-additional ways. So prayer is not like any way, let's all get around the world and pray. No. This is for no other application than this is not neighbors are names. For example, whatever countries you're next to, Mexico and you are hyper-additionally our neighbors. so we could sense where and how we're not the species body system, which is hyper native pure. See, there's strength. Each country is stronger and weaker in ways that have nothing to do with towards its system. But that's one of the ways Mexicans know they appreciate that, because correlation nature knows there was a breaching method. But see, they left out how everyone's blaming the other one for describing it wrong, because everyone blames other things, others, ourselves, where the breaching method employed that logic, those locations, roles with uses of predicate acts with facts methods, and then at other locations and instances. Also, where relevant is projected uses of words like crimes. Forgiveness is because everyone had employed other than we were capable of correlating at each age of correlation nature, individually grouped and together, and employed everyone to pretend that, and then to defend that. So now New York City, there are a whole bunch of ways, cities across the world. Oh, this is another thing I was going to say. That's what it is. It employed the species volume science /S and sciences /science simultaneously. See, this is a form that, rather than own it, I'll make it a hyper-pantheism, but only if it's going to be, not some other fake thing. Tactically ulterior from that which is hyper-native pure, that which is showing us the only increasing value of the differences and the similarities of Native Americans as our founders too. Not just our founders as James Madison and George Washington had to force them to get Marbury versus Madison in the plan to get the Constitution on a bridge, and us to explain how and why our founders had to lie about their motivations for what really led up to the American Revolution. Because the breaching method was measuring uses of those crazy laws, slavery against everyone, sickly distinctly, again, to measure and maintain other things, others ourselves blamed for that, and to propagate them, blamed on that. And where and how simultaneously industries, uses of words like industries have been employed right through our campuses, right through the differences of them. Before the World Trade Center attack, there were a whole bunch of people tied to that said they were the family of a Sklar family. And Wethersfield police recorded fast in the street is confirmed. They communicated them involved with them switching names, falsified police reports, confirmed roles with some of the people who confessed them roles with home break-ins, and their roles with the intelligence community, including former director of the FBI, with his co-defendants and their family members, and their roles with judges' family members. At the same time, and how they had social relationships, they make fake ties to people, fake exceptions and knowing people. Then if you say you don't know them, and they're putting fake motivations as a certain type of victim / hyper victim, as people involved with the wire crime methods of the Wethersfield police that pretended me to fake conversations with themselves. And I never saw Eric Mendez on campus. One time I saw him one quick moment on middle school, and one time real quick moment from a distance at a high school. He's one of the ones involved with this identity theft, fraud, slander method with other countries. And a DeMoro family with a Mr. Apruzzi, who's one of the ones who's recorded confessed in the street and confirmed involved with child abusers, including a principal child abuser, a principal Bean, Jim Bean. Even if that, there's articles about that in the news, but the news first forced that also by committing World Trade Center predicate acts while attaching me to fake conversations with themselves. They're hiding behind how they have a whole bunch of different countries with the campuses, and that allows them to tell lies because they're hurt at other countries and here or there where we share the human bodies together. Tactical ulterior from how nature employed this. See, the breaching method from some ancient times more practically and probably and demonstrably employed. Most criminal enterprises would not want to get caught, but it employed nature's demonstrations of itself. Blamed on other things other than ourselves is hyper-evidentially recorded. That's what's happened when people blame it on prejudice. Except for, see, we have to be led by the hyper-invisible. They're right. I mean, racism. They're right because you guys are still playing both the reactions to it that were employed, while it had nothing to do with that, and while all that and the difference of that is also employed, and for uses of those locations, but also for uses of it in layers further, therefore, and other ones too. Because the sense, how could, since before computers, they measure and maintain such fake, pretending other, with such crazy laws? Easy. They employed each human difference. Tactical ulterior from what is natural, but as criminal insidiousness. They employed that, shown needs to hide that in levels. So in other words, predicate acts with facts roles. The difference between the branches of government with their integrity, the overt criminal enterprises, the private ones, and the insidiousness of the opinions of people A through Z. This is recorded self-valued roles with all sides in criminal and civil cases, and then again through time, and with names in the hallway, and names switching names, preventing writing and pretending other, and putting arrays of falsified police report information into the databases as collusions with and it is not our country alone, because these were kids and mayors since they were kids who were with their kids and parents and all the people tied to them. This employs, he said, she said. This employs sensibility difference, even including religious spots. See, these are things you can't just walk up to people. Then they still want people because they want descriptions of instances that leaves out what came first. So a whole bunch of people tied to the name O'Brien, by the way, Wethersfield people. Also with Sandy Hook, like someone in Sandy Hook robbed that name. Also, he walked out the door with my sweatpants. In Sandy Hook, I was put in prison when I caught them, and they are still hid with the principal confessed to me. They made wire crimes and pretending we had communications over email. Maybe they made fake emails too. These are people involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and people with the forensics locations when I was a kid and then now. A whole bunch of people tied to Eric Oliveri and Joshua Stryker, and recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed by people in the past, like Jeremy Grohl has roles with Sabi Bujerio, also can record, confess, demonstrate, confirmed, involved intercities with people from my grammar school when I was a kid. He had roles with a principal child abuser and people with on and off Central Connecticut State University and people on and off the state judicial branch offices increasingly at other locations. They try to make fake exceptions with me to know me with Mike Roberts, also with people with the shoreline community associated with Mazzucato's there has something to do with them increasingly with their roles with the Elm Street corner on Elm Street since before the Mazzucato Bakery was there, years since before that, in Rocky Hill. And there was reports of him shooting someone there, a police chief, Cintron, who has recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed roles with foreign and domestic military, also with and sequence shifts, identity thefts, frauds, fake communication, fake audio and video transcripts, because of the sequence shifts. A whole bunch of people within the Britain Superior Court, Connecticut District Court, and Hartford courts involved with drugs and medicines crimes relevant to that, and with the names involved with the John Maiano. And they're putting fake uses of drugs and attaching kids to fake uses of drugs and their parents to fake use of drugs, alcohol. In other words, they try to make, in other words, has something to do with their roles with streets in Wethersfield I have been mentioning. I would not mention it because you guys bring it up. When I was a kid, I did not want to tell on little girls. I didn't even know their names. And it was quick instances. In other words, they have foreign and domestic overt federal criminals before they were caught. Pension thieves and stuff like that, because they have unions also timed roles like corners of streets, with their exceptions that I knew people. I didn't know them. They just came up and made confessions relative to how they did that before. A whole bunch of people tied to who they say is a Mayor Gold. I never formally met him. And Debbie Gold. They increasingly have roles with stacking fake things in databases, online tied to doing it as roles with child abusers. Increasingly, they have roles with other countries that involved and demonstrated where the fake difference of that, because there are collusions with themselves, with those families too. Time kept needing to hide the same uses of the locations with where and how there are manifest in our fact-keeping nature, suits and ties, counters to it and exceptions. Guys left out where and how our species body was employed. All this time they had nuclear weapons. All the logic with who can go, and we're still in it since before wagons. You know what I mean? Since day before cars, let alone cranes, and everyone working together with no slavery against everyone distinctly system there. It designed negative value nature progression, the suburbs to cause negative value nature progression acts of nature. The suburbs in Russia and America look almost exactly alike. Same thing with Ukraine. See, there is a complete syntax nature. There is a complete possession over psychopaths of psychiatry tied to courts and prisons. And they have all kinds of medicines. And they have rules with narratives by what the value of voting is, because they're getting over on mandated law. They're getting over on the Constitution unabridged. They're discrediting good logic by pretending that evidence, George Washington owned slaves. Those are all fake records. George Washington could tell no lies because he wants the Constitution unabridged, Marbury Madison, because so we're going to tell on how they forced them to pretend other, to entertain other, then could be entertained as the Constitution unabridged. See President/Chief and see Chief/President simultaneously. You guys make me understate things, because these are things we should be able to know like this, because nature shows it to us, the answers. We have other answers in the place. That was propagated, but it has long been self-cultivated roles and or sensing, short words used correctly, because revelations protract, such as how and why Black pupils, whites of eyes, and exceptions in exception nature that's a truth that comes with revelations. It answers questions. It teaches. See, but that is replaced. Truths can be used for lies. Truths can be used to screen lies. truths can be used to get. Just simply maintain the quality of fact-keeping nature as criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments, negative treatments, or the difference of that treatment. There is a hypercritical. So, in other words, if people want to have that nature of debate, they need a quality of fact-keeping nature at all formal locations that is not going to go into details. That's why they have to follow mandated law here, but instead they steal our voices. They use exception nature, tactical ulterior from nature does as itself. That's how it was what was truly done to the Native Americans through the people that had it done to themselves. The hyper-native education of everyone had been taken away and tactically replaced, including the relevance of that per a method. There are proofs that there is a hyper-archetypal criminal enterprise, or was, that knew it was going to get caught. The ancients already knew what criminal foreign influences were. They already knew what criminal insidiousness was. But they also already knew and couldn't fathom anyone could get anyone to forget how to cause evolution's fruits and gifts and means out of nowhere. How valuable it is. The difference, the exception nature, including of how the other languages have different sounds with a better than living identity relationship to themselves, as our language has, as is revealed to teach. I had an algebra class associated with this when I was in high school. Everyone in that class, there was only me, including me, there was 3 other people. And they made statements to make it look like they were here. In other words, they have roles with abuses of people on all sides of my house, as roles with recent home breaking and reports of it and use of it, as roles with WFSB that attached me to fake conversations about the World Trade Center, fake ties to kids they pretended, have doctors, fake ties to kids, fake to me as a kid too, fake ties to me as a kid. They did little fake tricks. So, to make it appear other. And the difference of that is also exploited. In other words, other is being taught, communicated for our founders, and asked to communicate it for themselves. I tell no lies. There is a predicate acts delivery system method that can be discerned, and it shows that they grouped criminal enterprises wrong, including countries. They counter criminal insidiousness wrongs where our names have been employed. They never had integrity. Not one of them where someone needs to use that as correlation nature. To that, there's an offensive preempt. That's right where too. Fake motivations are needed, where the real motivations are relative to uses of all formal fact treatment instances and locations. Names individually grouped in together. This thing was sophistication here before our founders' parents were born. Before our founders were born, the design for the suburbs was already to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, and to replace means to cause positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures with criminal insidiousness means to cause positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures. And to sustain that also as a means to measure and maintain who's not collusions correlation, whether therefore syntactically with the reachings method, also a method /s that made use of our database relationships since before computers, and the ancient republic for which we stand, and the real reason why and how, there is such order. It's disgusting when they speak about these treatments leaving out the answers. They want to blame on other things, others, ourselves. But formally, can't do it because of differentially, but differentially increasingly, collusions are kept with complete strangers and the difference of that, which is easy because they have collusions from the youngest ages with adults and kids. Overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and the interbranch insidiousness natures of positive treatments, negative treatments, and of names uses, including humanity, including all the words in the dictionary, let alone morality. So that's why you have things manifest. People, if you watch MSNBC, Fox News, and CNN, all Americans are a certain type of victim /hyper victim that sickly distinctly each campus taught other than our founders left us to communicate for them. In other words, there was a predicate acts delivery system method. There's a criminal insidiousness to nature delivery system method that nature itself shows when anyone entertains those crazy laws. And we're not following nature's system, which is the Constitution unabridged in Marbury versus Madison. See, they're forcing people to go to formal interbranch locations because of roles with what's manifest, where and how what's hyper-additional is where and how all sides in criminal and civil cases and the spots of the depositions used criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions wrought, collusions with other natures of organized crime. We have types of experts at Harvard Hospital to count types of crimes. They're involved with the furtherance of them. They're involved with catching people, everyone around them, to fake conversations with themselves. Wire crime methods with little kids, with games, with this. The only three branches of government like that, they kept them criminally foreign influence. It's a certain type of victims. You have to understand even the insidiousness of people A through Z. You guys are only saying things that are preventing the quality of fact-keeping nature we can only afford here. We can only afford what actual science reveals about New York City. It is sickly, distinctly unfree and forced to pretend other. Per the breaching method, measuring, maintaining, that's the outcome /S. But through other motivations, nature's needs, interests, apparent motivation, because of where and how they are used remotely as fact-keeping nature. Predicate acts with facts, nature shown needs to pretend other. Certain type of sick, logic that each form was fit. Where and how they had to entertain industries as no country out of nowhere had to become a country. But everything, the breaching method set it up and had already sustained. Any kind of unity would be a criminal insidiousness nature of one, of independence. Know how a unity can't help be independence at the same time. It could be both of them criminal insidiousness. If one of them is, in other words, going to show, because the whole thing comes with the hyper and simultaneous too, which is hyper-native pure, because it is itself. We can't be it. We can't. There's other species can't be it, but it looks like it because they have those same traits, those same quality aspects in nature. One identity of hyper-simultaneous nature is coming to, from, as, with, and for itself as each thing. Well, not. And well, anyway. See, but this also is with where and how it uses Earth's a special difference. How it is with this additionally as our own. not its difference, but anyway. But then further, its difference or not, positive unto itself, as we will only stay with no criminal foreign influences per its system, except for through us. In other words, we even messed up the memories of the animals, not we, the humanity, from some ancient times. There are proofs that an international criminal enterprise that was also overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and formal legal natures at that level. They were going to get caught. So they had to do crazy things to make people blame other things, others, or selves for bad things. And then to defend that. And they knew, though, that nature would continually demonstrate that. So they knew that they will also have to continually do things to maintain that, to propagate that. And increasingly, when people have to defend that, in other words, what they wouldn't even realize until they wouldn't realize. And what they didn't realize is that they were defending scientific conviction, formal fact-achieving nature convictions, opinions, theories, tactical delusions, acceptations of the uses of the science's names that can't defend themselves and afford use of the short words and by the revelations. In other words, if someone says slavery was about a predicate acts with facts method, think about it. Think about how the predicate is valued to the law as a means to discern if someone committed a predicate act. It's a criminal insidiousness nature. With the English, a predicate is a main verb. A gerund, as the participle natures are, they are gerunds distinctly. So the value of the gerund is there too. And these are all names for the verb. So we could make a past participle or present participle by putting ing on the word, depending how you use it there. So I forgot to thank you, people. Oh, Ukraine, Russia and America, China, India. How long? You guys, in other words, Europe, European names of the species body system. How long are we going to leave that out? How long are we going to leave out the hyper-additional? And I figured out how it was happening because of the remote usage of everyone where this syntactically manifests. Other things, others, and ourselves have been blamed. Where and how the human fact-achieving nature breaching method was the answer, for example, and or a predicate acts delivery system method / criminal insidiousness nature delivery system method, and the other sequence nature, for example. This employed only allowed to be criminal insidiousness natures of positive and negative treatments simultaneously. Therefore, identity treatments, name treatments, we know which trials, even if they were made up, regardless of who made them up, they were about slavery. They're about torture. Look how the World Trade Center effectively made self-valued roles forced with torture. We haven't had World War I and World War II explained properly because they still have collusions with the psychiatry. since before our founders were born. In 1822, slavery was still entrenched north and south. They still have roles. 1822, the Institute of Living was founded on the campus of Hartford Hospital. This is where the intelligence ones with community ones with badges, some without, are psychiatrists. They have roles with UConn, with the intelligence community. For example, please UConn. Former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, has roles with various natures of overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and families associated with religious locations. And it's where they put everyone around themselves to fake audio and video transcripts. And as roles with all sides in criminal and civil cases, victims advocates, people in the hallways of the courts, and people with sequence shifts and stacking fake things in the court's databases, and then again. And with the police department, they're fabricating audio and video transcripts. A whole bunch of people tied to Anthony Yagman are some of the people involved with planting evidence of I never saw on my street in my life. But he has roles with social media and with wire crimes, with and people involved with child offenders, with the Joshua Julian, and people all along Route 175, and people involved with wire crimes with Weathersfield police, and their syntax and the readings of statutes criminally foreign influenced. They also have 3 Facebook pages. They did this to me. I have roles with identity theft, fraud, slander with Weathersfield police, fake motivations, all exception nature too. Because first I asked calmly, since before the World Trade Center attack, Weathersfield interbranch family members with a whole bunch of different countries since I was a kid. And increasingly, you let it go when you're a kid, when you realize they have other motivations. You know, it's been corrupt so long, and someone's a police officer and they make something, in other words, like that. They tell you, we're criminally foreign influence police, the courts, little kids, while their roles with the various natures of organized crime from the same location supposed to be against those things because of the predicate acts with facts method, because of the roles with the database with it differentially, where no one wants to have roles with it, but increasingly the exceptions are made because of how they're being used remotely and are being used remotely. This is a method that used location /S since before computers, before our founders were born. We know this was a crazy trap /S, and that was sustained. And everyone had to respond within that while they were leaving out what's even worse. And the whole time, look how many subject times people pretended passions, emotions with subject treatments. When all along, these answers have been here. Oh, but that's why you have to follow into the law here. That's why the news, they've been using the right to lie when they don't have the right to lie. They're endangering our country further and worse. There are proofs that there's a forgive me, Mr. Crystal or whatever. I never met. I don't know, but when you took a picture, when you told everyone to take a picture with you and the timing of it, there's fluent criminally foreign influence uses of the military and the people at the locations next to the state capitol and associated with Weathersfield Pizza through time. The state capitol in Hartford, Connecticut, as names rolls with overt uses / insidious uses of the kids and of the adults, of Black families, of KKK themed ones, of Confederate flag themed ones. Also collusions all along from where the spots in Old Weathersfield associated with George Washington, and next to it, all the way along from Weathersfield on Main Street, all the way there, house on Church Street, involved with people planting predicate acts in databases, identity theft, fraud, slanders, where people at Harvard Hospital, the intelligence community. They have whole wire crime acts and methods, the intelligence community interbrings, and the exceptions tied to them. Whiting forensics is increasingly tied also with the witness protection program, involved with the evidences before as names before the World Trade Center attack, Harvard courts and the Britain courts, and Connecticut District Court people and former director of the FBI affected, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed as uses of locations by other people that had already been similar, have been recorded, relative in West Hartford and New Britain. And as the people and the names involved with it. And these are also people involved with the Sclora and the World Trade Center attack with other natures in the Ninth Circuit Court right next to the World Trade Center towers right before they were taken out. And leading up to it, someone had post-dated legal papers to make them presented to the panel of judges as if they'd been presented late. And that's one of the cases where the defendants and the plaintiffs and witnesses and the former director of the FBI, that was proven afterward about the sequence shift part. The post-dated documents note is a sequence shift note. And then that led up to a 2006 district court case now in Connecticut. And that was right before that with the people involved with Fox Connecticut News, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Locations next to Fox Connecticut News has roles also with people with uses of corners near me through time, with all sides in criminal and civil cases too, like a Jeremy Gruhl made a whole bunch of recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed roles with names that like a Subby Bajorio. He made a whole bunch of confessions I didn't respond to. Then they took a picture, asked me, and he made a $20 transaction with me for fraud with the former director of the FBI involved with the other countries. These are people involved with mayors and there was a kid that said that he was the, or I don't know if it was him or someone else said it, that he was a relative of Congressman Larson. And some people with in that video, a number of ways. I noted with Mike Oliver in one of his fights. There's Iceman John Scully boxing guy, and a Sammy Vega. That Sammy Vega is one of the ones that there's another congressman, Joseph Lieberman, who was brought up with one of the locations, and a John DeMorrow is one of the whole bunch of people tied to a John DeMorrow is involved with Old Weathersfield and his brother Joe DeMorrow and a cousin of Joe DeMorrow, and they're involved with training state police and other police forms, other agencies, and their family members. They have roles like identity theft, fraud, slanders, all exceptions that where they pretend motivations too. They're recorded roles with their family members use criminally foreign influence, differentially with the ones from other countries and their extended family members. They increasingly telling lies to everyone. Then you get mad at your family members or don't. They use it against you either way. That's why it's important to get everyone on paper too, because they attached me and my family to faked and to changed conversations where there were real, in other words, and lied about the outcome of legal cases tied to my mother with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin. She's not going to go try to battle Robert Luskin. WFSB has roles with Robert Luskin, and she's pretending the WFSB is pretending I have to speak for my mother. Leave her alone. Then they have the kids. They wait till you guys, Weathersfield parents, they hid with this from you because they have some, and they're using their difference too. There's an O'Neill family who's a teacher in West Hartford. She's not even a teacher in Wethersfield. And then she's got her kids involved with this and with the Whiting forensic plays. And these are people increasingly with roles with the Saudis, forced by our side because these are the names on our side associated with it since I was a kid. Attach me to fake ties to themselves, completely fake exceptions. Like a Luigi Guerrero. I never had a conversation in my life. Same thing with in other words, they try to make a fake exception. We drove up to O'Brien College. That's why they did that. Now they're using exceptions, exception nature, criminally foreign influence, where programming is a word, and value, where they have roles with all kinds of natures of legal cases. Therefore, and identity theft and fraud, fake motivations of why and when they knew me, as people involved with this John Mayan recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, whole bunch of people tied to this police chiefs and one years ago, retired and standing, and other police departments, as the ones that brought up Robert Rodriguez. Robert Rodriguez brought up a shopping center too. He didn't say the shopping center. In other words, he tried to have a conversation, dumping a whole bunch of confessions to me because he made it. Maybe they took a picture of me the only other time on Maple Street one time. And that was right when they have roles with overt criminal enterprises, plural, and people I never had anything to do with in grammar school and middle school. They tried to make fake exceptions because these are people roles here where they use remotely all sides in criminal and civil cases and the names at the hallways of the court, etc. Because they're roles with that breaching method, that relative to how they could get away so long with pretending that integrity has the means to speak for weapons. They value that and how we don't have good security. We don't have good security because we're not a voice speaking for the species body system abridged. We have self-value, the Constitution abridged. We have self-value narratives and natures, pretending passions and emotions, where we could discern they're leaving out finite details. They're leaving out what is actually simultaneously recorded, and their tactically delusions raw. So we have all communications platforms, certain type of victim / hyper victim. They're making allegations against people and then pretending other people are making allegations. And they're skewing that. In other words, all sides in criminal and civil cases, the victims and victims advocates have collusions against me. I'm only speaking about me. But I could also discern this against a lot of people who have also tried to speak against it, but they change what they say. They change the nature of what they say. They even attach people to fake behavior of aggression and not with people that are involved on my street also, with their doctors, with Hartford Hospital, a whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital and the Institute of Living and the psychology side of the emergency room and the police with them and with the garage and their family members. They have roles together with predicate acts with facts. And a whole bunch of different countries with the same names. They have roles with the DeMorrow family and IO family with businesses next to the campuses there, and the medical campus there with overt criminal enterprises. And they recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed roles with the former director of FBI people and the Scalora and the World Trade Center and their uses of the Keene family for identity theft, fraud, slanders, and sins too. They hid what they're doing, attaching everyone to fake communicate and changed communications with each other. And they have Enzo Fienzo also as one of the ones involved with the body dumping spot of uses of the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso that there are also increasingly timed uses of. And I'm sorry for using the locations like the corner of Griswold Street You guys brought it up. I mean, people at Trinity College brought it up with the former director of the FBI associated with a Joshua Stryker and some judges' family members that have been planting predicate acts with facts and faked evidences and replacing what's actually recorded on campuses filmed 24/7. These are also names that have been doing that at Central Connecticut State University. They also affected confessions to me from kids when I was a kid in the form of a statement. And then there's going to be no response, and then there's a fake communication, fake difference. In other words, so there's a problem, and they were using mail and wire crime methods. Also, the Leahy family pretended through the mail that they had conversations with me, and they have a whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital involved with this, and a whole bunch of other countries involved with this. Rick C.M. Faglione also recorded confessed demonstrated confirmed by Timothy O'Brien and a Ray Cololo with wire crime methods with them. Identity theft, fraud, slanders, where they have roles with the intelligence community with Hartford, Connecticut. Increasingly, I never saw Ray Cololo downtown Hartford. Rick C.M. Faglione, they apparently took a picture and they tried to make it look like I know them, make a fake exception of me knowing them. One of the times they made a fake exception. Now, these are people with the courts, a whole bunch of people with the Britain Superior Court, a whole bunch of people with Connecticut District Court, a whole bunch of people with Hartford courts before the World Trade Center. They have roles with predicate acts, with facts, with instances, recollections, and uses of that, where they're fabricating and making up things. In other words, including, again, as federal rules of evidence is crime, federal evidence is crime, and uses of that roles with all sides in criminal and civil cases. And then again, as the names before the World Trade Center attack, I asked to report, and they wouldn't let me report it, and they pretended I used drugs that I didn't use, and they were the ones involved with the drugs. So that's one of the things I caught them doing too. Former director of the FBI and his co-defendants in their deposition, and there were courts involved with that, with their family members and intimate ties, also with foreign and domestic military. Eric Burgess and Mark Violet and Justa Klavinskis, one of the ones that recorded confessed demonstration. I never had a class with Justa Klavinskis. I only saw him around one time in high school, and it was right when the only time I saw his wife, who was one of the ones that was recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed from other classrooms, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders against me, with strangers from my town, and they do this with other people. There's a difference just because there's someone from your time that's still a stranger. Don't talk to strangers, they say. See, we can't get into this because if we had gotten into this, it would show how the suburbs are tactically denatured, let alone the cities. They want to keep that employed and pretend people are speaking about black and white. This is unacceptable. This is torture that they don't have the sophistication to counter, because they still have collusions with roles with uses of torture methods like identity theft, fraud, slander. That's something still leveraged against our founders through the mental experts, still tactically delusions raw. There are also roles with names on off the state corrections offices, including with the military and increasingly criminally foreign influence. Also with the names Cololo Demaro, and someone with the name Dave, and people with the name Cuddy, increasingly involved with child offenders, identity theft, fraud, slanders. Like this Cuddy, I never had a family conversation. They were brought up by one of the people involved with the schools. Also with the news, forcing child abusers, fabricating audio and video records, and lying to parents, and uses of the difference between the people with badges who have students, and the interbranch who have roles from there too. These are roles increasingly with the hyper-crime scene. Obviously, it employed all kinds of negative value nature progressions, acts, and measures when it employed those crazy laws. that Jim Crow laws, one of the things Jim Crow laws were about is how that breaching method was left entrenched to measure and maintain. Only criminally insidiousness natures of unity and their value as independent simultaneously. You can't be independent unless you defend the finite. Where only an individual can defend the finite. So you guys are forcing entertain logic with politics because even though it's only been heard, that's another thing our founders left us to communicate. I tell them lies. All rise, be trial tribes. Just